Good evening, good morning, and good night. Welcome to Inappropriate Radio. It's your host, Tashana. Let's get into this. So, hi guys. Today we're going to be discussing calcium. Yes, we are moving along with the periodic table. Now, I found a lot of different interesting facts. First of all, I didn't know you couldn't make calcium in your body, right? I was assuming that because calcium and a good calcium intake is related to your bones and your teeth, I assumed that it was already prevalent and abundant in your body. But it turns out this is why we were told to drink our milk so we have strong bones, right? Because we need the calcium so we won't be weak. So, like potassium, it can be produced in the body. You have to find ways to get this element in your body. It's an earth mineral, right? It's a metal. And I'm just bugged out because as I was doing research and like I was assuming, these elements that are in our body and that are required for us to survive are found all throughout the galaxy, with the exception of helium and hydrogen, right? So I found that to be like the craziest, right? Now, of course, we need this calcium to have strong bones and strong teeth, but we also need calcium to, again, like potassium, assist us with nerve functioning, and it also is related to the prevention of blood clotting. Now, I know a lot of us are aware of having this calcium. This calcification is basically the buildup of calcium in your organs. It can basically be any site on your body and it'll start to harden up. It's usually a sign of an infection, cancer, or due to aging or a past surgery. Now, although calcium isn't in the Milky Way, right? Our galaxy, there's enough floating around up there, like trillions upon trillions, right? Because calcium does come from stars. So just like yesterday, how we discussed the supernovae, which is the explosion or the dying of a star, right? Same thing. This is an actual sub type of star, also called a supernovae, where it's basically abundant in calcium, and when it explodes, it releases an astronomical amount of calcium. Now, what I find to be important is the things that are not really required for us to survive, right? Like the earth elements, the things in the biosphere, like the nitrogens, the carbons, the oxygens, right? And the hydrogens. What is crazy is that these things are not so abundant in the earth, like on the physical realm, but they come from the galaxy. And I think that is so interesting because these are things that are required for the physical body, right? Your body per se can't produce it, but this is required for your physical body to function. So if you're following me, and if this is making sense at all, the things that are required for us to survive in this realm, our body cannot produce so far. Like, this is what we're, coming across. It's not abundant in our body. And although it's like abundant, it's highly abundant in the bones and the skeletal, we still need to find ways to produce it. And it's not just in our bodies abundantly like some of the previously discussed elements. Now, why this is important is not only do we need this thing for our body to have motor functioning, right? This is how we journey through this realm, this dimension. I think it's also funny how this thing becomes more abundant or the instance or the possibility of the calcification is related to aging. I think that is so interesting, but let's keep going. So, another thing that I had paid attention to, and yes, before we go on, yes, calcium is also another mineral that is in sea moss, okay? Now, you can obviously, like we know, eat your dairy, your cheese, your yogurt, your milk, your bread, your soybeans, your figs, salmon, right? Those are a few things that we can consume to get some calcium, right? Now, just like a lot of these other elements, these minerals are found in this realm, in this dimension, right? In other forms. And I felt like as we started to phase through, we would obviously start learning more and more. We could educate ourselves, right? I'm just trying to have the conversation to make the spiritual connection to the elements, and then we're going to just learn about a little bit of chemistry and how these things are going to be able to help us in our waking lives and what they mean as far as the overall, 3D, and just how to make the connection between the 3D and the other dimensions, right? Now, remember, because these elements are found in other forms, it's really, really easy to say, this is that and that is this. But these different forms that they're in serve different purposes. So let's just keep that in mind as we have these conversations. Now, back to the calcification. Now, we all know that when people get these buildups or plaque in your arteries, this is basically a buildup of calcium, right? Now, I thought that was also important because our bodies don't have this thing in abundance. Our bodies can't produce it, right? But we can get a buildup of it, and it will prevent our proper functioning from occurring. Now, if you've been following, then you know how much, we've been paying attention to the periodic table and kind of just peeking away every now and then to have a different conversation. But I thought this was important to point out because these calcifications or also called calcium deposits, they turn hard and they build up and they can cause a lot of different issues, but they don't necessarily cause pain. Now, remember we made this connection to the physical body needing calcium for the physical body, and then knowing that it is, what did it say? The fifth most abundant mineral in the Earth's crust, and then the third most abundant metal. So a mineral, I'm sorry. So I just wanted to make sure like we're paying attention to the different concepts that are related to, I'm sorry, I'm texting, to these different metals or elements, if you will. Now, calcium is a metal, right? And it reacts with water. Now, this is when it's in the form of a metal. It's used as a reducing agent in preparation for other metals. It's also used as an alloy agent. So, again, the more we learn, the more we're going to be able to become more acquainted with these elements and just the overall periodic table. Eventually, we're going to start learning the groups and the periods. Obviously, this is just a conversation that we're all going to be having together. If you are like a chemist or a science teacher or a biology teacher at best, then you would be way more versed and cognizant of the periodic table and just learning how to interpret everything overall. But for the sake of the spiritual portion of the conversation, we're gonna go into this so we could start looking at these elements from a different perspective. This way, not only are we enhancing our spiritual understanding and learning about these elements, we're able to learn more about ourselves, and this will help us remember these elements. And we're going to learn how these elements work in tandem, what elements don't go together. We're going to go over all of that. But I think it's important that we take this slow, because a lot of these metals or elements, if you will, have a lot of things in common with others. So that's where the groups and the periods come in. But then there's a lot of distinctions upon each of these elements, and we're going to learn how to pretty much use them to our benefit and for our survival. Now remember, calcium is an alkaline earth metal. Okay. It's the most abundant metallic element in the body. So I think that is also important. Again, metals cause reactions. I would say that this would allow us to be drawn to the spirit world, to the astral planes. I think having not enough or too much would be a problem, but having a sufficient amount of calcium is what allows us to transit via the spirit world, of course, amongst other things. But I'm just looking at this from a bird's eye view, okay? If I sound like I'm tripping out, please, like, by all means, don't kill me. Just tell me like you're crazy, but try to understand where this is coming from. Obviously, you need the vitamin D also to go with your bones and everything like that. So again, let's just educate ourselves. You don't have to follow along with me. This is just for the sake of being organized and just trying to keep a little bit of this stuff together. So yeah, this is we're gonna start actually going into like the temperatures and stuff like that, like we did in the beginning. But let's just get acquainted, okay, with the elements first, and then we'll be able to, move forward a little bit more. Remember, it's an alkaline earth metal, and it's a reactive metal. Okay. So yeah, let's kind of just start remembering something. But I'm sorry, I ran out of time. Love y'all. Drink y'all ready to get y'all ready.